All right, we're back and we're going to be working on part 2 of our Georgia O'Keeffe project. You created a nice line drawing of a zoomed in version of an object. So I used my caramels and I zoomed in and I blew it up on my piece of paper and I had a really nice pencil drawing. And what I'm going to be showing you today is how to color that in. Different blending techniques that you can use with your colored pencils, crayons, markers, and if you want oil pastels, anything that you have, paints. I will show you different techniques of how to blend and how to apply them to your artwork. So get those supplies out that you wish to color with. You could do any supplies. If you want to outline yours in Sharpie first, you're more than welcome to, but you do not have to. And we're going to get started. All right, so I'm going to review with you today some different techniques for blending and using different materials. So for your Georgia O'Keeffe inspired zoomed in drawing, you can use any supplies you wish to color it in. But I want to make sure that we're making it look as realistic as possible by using some of these techniques I'm about to show you. So if you're using marker, I have a scrap piece of paper here. If you want to practice any of these on a scrap piece of paper before you put it on your good copy, you can do that first. And I'm going to show you a blending technique using marker first. So I'm going to write marker so I know which one it is. And the way that you blend using markers, you're going to find two colors that are about the same, but one is light and one is dark. So let me go ahead. I'm going to go through some of my colors. Let's see. All right, so I have a light coral and almost a peachy light coral and a darker coral. And what I'm going to do for marker, it's different than a lot of the other supplies. I'm going to start with my dark one. And I'm going to fill in whatever I'm doing. If you have an edge, you'd fill in the edge. And I'm just going to make it solid all the way. And what I'm going to do next is take the tip and I'm going to add light lines coming off of it like that. It almost looks like the end of a scarf. Now what I'm going to do with the light marker is I'm going to come in and where those lines are, I'm going to rub on top of it. And then I'm going to come on down and just fill in my solid color. All right, so this will create that blend color. To get it even more of that ombre or blended look, up top I'm going to come back in with my dark color and do a second coat. And if you need to, you could always add a couple more lines for that blend. So that is a marker blend that you can use. This is also another marker blend technique that you can use is if you want to do a shadow. So say I have a circle in my light color. I could come in with my darker color on top of it and just add a little bit of that shadow in. And if you want to do a couple of those lines, you can do that. So it almost looks like a shadow. So it's darker on one side and lighter on the other by blending those two colors that are similar. One is darker, one is lighter. You can also do a marker blend by creating colors next to each other on the color wheel. So if I have, let's see, what colors are next to each other on the color wheel? Yellow and blue. So I have two colors. You could do this same technique. And it'll create another color in the middle. So you go dark. Do not do colors opposite of each other on the color wheel because you're going to just get a bunch of brown. So I do straight across with some little lines coming down. Remember that end of your scarf. And I'm coming in, rubbing over it, and then bringing it down. So you can do this. This might get your markers a little dirty. So if you don't want to do that, don't use this technique. Only use the colors that are similar to each other. So that is a blending technique that you can use using two completely different colors, but they're next to each other on the color wheel. All right, so that's marker. Next, we're gonna move to oil pastel. So oil pastel is super fun because it's very creamy. And again, for these, we only want to use colors that are similar. So maybe a dark green and a light green, or colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. If you forget your color wheel, either look one up online or it's just the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, and then it goes around. So you can just write those out in a circle and that's your color wheel. So for this one, I think I'm going to do a red and a yellow because they're next to each other on the color wheel. And how you're going to do it is you're going to press hard at the top and you're lightly going to lift up that pressure so you almost get some of these white spots showing. And then you're going to put that color to the side. Then from the bottom, you're going to press with the yellow, but you're going to press hard all the way up until you hit the solid red, and then you're going to stop. So that creates this ombre look, this blend in the oil pastel. So it's a little bit different. You're pressing hard, lightening up on the darker color. With the lighter color, you're coming hard all the way up until you hit that red. And that's how you blend for oil pastel. All right, what other supplies do we have? All right, we have some watercolors. You do the same thing with watercolors, except it's a little bit different because we're adding water in there. So we don't want to mix opposite colors, but I can use, let's see, blue and green are next to each other on the color wheel. So maybe I do that. Oh, let me write out which one I'm working on next. All right, so I'm taking my blue and I'm rubbing in my blue color and I'm going to start to add it onto my paper. I'm not going to dip back in my color. I'm going to rinse off my brush so I only have plain water on my brush, and I'm going to drag that down. So already this is a one color blend because it goes from dark to light. All right, if I wanted to mix two colors, maybe I come into my green and I rub, and I'm going to start at the bottom and come on up, and then I'm not adding more. I can add just water, and when I get to here, I have that blend. If you happen to get a line of the blue like this, all you need to do is just come in to your plain water and then come in and you're just going to rub in circular motions in between the two, and it will create that blend that you're looking for. All right, so we've already line 3, marker, oil pastel, and watercolor. Now we're going to come into our colored pencil. And colored pencil and crayons work the same way. So if you are using crayons, you can either use the oil pastel technique or the colored pencil technique. They both work for the crayons. So I'm going to come in, I think I'm going to do red and yellow again. Let me see. I could do purple and red, or blue and red. That creates purple. Let's do blue and red. All right, so I'm coming in. I'm going to stick this piece of paper underneath because I have a bumpy table. And I'm pressing hard up top. And then as I come down, I'm slowly lifting that pressure up until it's almost nothing. For the blue, I'm coming the other direction, pressing hard, hard until I start to meet that red. Then I'm going to start to lift my pressure up. And you start to get a blend. If you want to blend it more, but it seems a little dark to you, what you can do is come in with your white, but this will lighten it up a little bit. And you could go over it hard the entire way with the white, and it'll make it nice and smooth, but it will lighten your color a little bit. So we see how it goes from one to the other. If it looks like different sections, you can always come back in lightly with colored pencil and add a little bit more where you need it. All right, so that is your 4 different materials and blending techniques that you can use for marker, oil pastel, watercolor, and colored pencil. So you can try these techniques on your artwork. Like I said, you could do it as a shadow, or you can, if you want to ombre and make it turn from one color to another, this is how you would do it. All right, so we learned our blending techniques. Now I'm going to come back to my drawing from last week. So I have my caramels in front of me. If you used a picture, make sure that's in front of you, or the object's in front of you. And what we're going to do is we're gonna just start to color it in based on our blending techniques. You can use any of the materials that you chose. I think I'm going to use oil pastels because I haven't used them yet. And what I'm gonna do is start to come in with the color and start to blend. So for oil pastels, I'm pressing lightly and coming in harder on the edges. And don't be afraid to have some fun with the color and mix some of the colors up. As long as they're next to each other on the color wheel, or you're adding white, you can do that. So I'm coming in, I'm blending in with my white and adding layers. So when it gets darker in some areas, you want to press hard, and you could always add a little bit of brown or a darker color. So if, say, the edge over here is a little bit darker, I could come in and start mixing some of these colors up to get that shadow that I'm looking for. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna color mine in, show you what mine look like. We'll talk about it a little bit when it's done, and then I want you to get started on coloring yours in. All right, so here's my finished product. As you can see here, I used my blending techniques for oil pastel and went from light red to dark red, and also on my bag it went from this darker brown to light brown, so I kind of did that here. I did have to come in with some colored pencils to add in my writing and clean up some of my edges, because as you can see, oil pastel is very messy. So if you're not looking for a messy material, you might want to choose one of the other ones like colored pencil, marker, or watercolors. We've learned all the techniques to blend and add shading to our artwork, so I hope you have fun with this. I can't wait to see how you color yours in and use some of these blending techniques we have just learned.